All right, welcome. Today we're going to dive into a really fascinating idea that kind of sits at the crossroads of ancient wisdom and our modern sense of well-being. We're talking about harmonizing our homes using the science of sound. We're going to unpack how our living spaces might actually be holding on to energy and, more importantly, what we can do about it. So let's start with a question that might feel a little close to home. You know that feeling, right? You walk into a room right after an argument, and the tension is so thick you could slice it with a knife? Well, according to the material we're looking at today, that feeling might be a lot more real than you think. So first up, let's talk about your home's hidden emotions. The big idea here is that our houses are so much more than just brick and mortar. They're actually active players in our emotional world. Think about it like this. Our homes aren't just passive shelters. They're constantly soaking up everything that happens inside them. The joy, the stress, the laughter, the conflict. Every single emotion leaves a kind of energetic footprint on the space itself. It's like the walls are listening. Now, I know this might sound a little out there, but the source material we're exploring proposes what it calls a science of bad vibes. It's a whole framework for how all that negativity might actually take on a physical form right there in our homes. It all starts with this claim. Every home has its own electromagnetic field, almost like an energy fingerprint that's totally unique. And this field isn't static, not at all. It's constantly shifting and changing depending on the emotional weather inside. And here's where it gets really interesting, how this process is broken down. So the source suggests that when intense emotions like anger or conflict erupt, our bodies release stress hormones, and these are said to create what it calls cortisol-like microparticles. These tiny particles get released into the air, and over time, they build up into this dense, negative cloud that just hangs around your house. Okay, so if our homes can get clouded up with all this negative energy, how in the world do we clear the air? Well, the source points to an ancient tool for this very modern problem, the Gayatri Mantra. And it frames it not just as a prayer, but as a kind of sonic technology. This slide just lays it out so clearly, doesn't it? On one side, you've got a home filled with discord, that negative aura, those cortisol particles, all that tension. But on the other side, a home filled with the vibration of the Gayatri Mantra. And that atmosphere is said to be one of pure energy, peace, and something called sattva, which is basically a state of total harmony and balance. So how does this actually work on a physical level? Well, the source claims that chanting the Gayatri Mantra produces very specific sound vibrations. It even describes them as being like ultrasonic waves. These waves are said to travel through the room and are powerful enough to physically interact with and literally shatter those negative microparticles. I absolutely love this metaphor. It just clicks, right? The sound of the mantra is basically a spiritual vacuum cleaner. It's actively going in, sucking up, and neutralizing all that dense, heavy energy, leaving your home's aura feeling clean and bright again. All right, let's step back for a second and look at the wisdom behind all of this. We're going to explore this whole idea from a deeper, more spiritual point of view. And this piece of wisdom really gets to the heart of it. Where there is Gayatri, discord cannot exist. It suggests that to turn your home into a Tapovan, a sacred, peaceful place, you have to transform its subtle energy. It's a powerful claim that in the presence of this specific sound, negativity just can't stick around. So to wrap this all up, what we're really looking at is the science of a sacred space. And the key message from our source is that this isn't about some kind of hocus pocus or magic. It's about a clear, repeatable process. And here's the biggest takeaway. The source material presents this whole idea of transforming a home's atmosphere from just a house into a heaven as a verifiable scientific process, all rooted in its own theories about the physics of sound and energy. And that really leaves us with one final thought. Something to reflect on. If the energy of our home is really being shaped by our emotions, by our actions, then that means the power to create a peaceful, harmonious space is literally in our hands. So the question is, what energy will you choose to cultivate?